Hey everybody, I'm Shannon Sommerville from the LineStar YouTube channel with your first look at some of the NFL player prop bets that we like for Super Bowl 59. We got the Eagles and the Chiefs going at it yet again. They met 2 years ago in Super Bowl 57. The Chiefs won that one, but the Eagles are looking for some vengeance. In fact, Jalen Hurts on his lock screen on his iPhone had a picture from that game of the confetti flying all over the field after the Chiefs won that game. Now the Chiefs are looking for a three-peat. But Jalen Hurts and company standing in the way of that accomplishment. It's going to be a great game, and we're going to dive into some of the player prop bets that I'm already liking so far. Now, later this week, we'll hear from my co-host Tyler Wiemann, and he'll join us to kind of break down the player prop bets a little bit more and then go into touchdown calls and then the overall game script, what we like as far as against the spread, that sort of thing. We'll go into a little bit more in depth this week. So that's on tap here on the LineStar YouTube channel. If you're not already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Let me know if you've got any locks for Super Bowl 59. All right, let's first tell you about our featured partner offer right now. I'm going to highlight CHALKBOARD. I actually just downloaded this myself the other day, and I'm a big fan of it. Use the promo code LineStar right now. You'll get an up to $100 of your first deposit matched. So up to $100, that's a really great deal. And then they'll also give you a player promo pick. So for example, you could get something like Patrick Mahomes over 0.5 passing yards in the Super Bowl. You can pair that with one of your favorites of mine that you have for today if there's anything else that you like. And as always, check out that PropsAI tool when you get a second on the LineStar app. It's a great tool that's been helping us all season, not just in NFL, but in NBA. If you check out our NBA shows as well, we give you picks every day for free, but we're always using that PropsAI tool on the LineStar app to help us out. It's kind of a one-stop shop for all your research needs. If you're interested, check it out, linestarapp.com. All right, let's get into some player prop bets that I like. And anytime you're kind of going into one of these games, you've got to kind of have in your head in the player prop market what you think the overall outcome is going to be, and then maybe work backwards from there as far as how you think it's all going to transpire. So if I look at this game and I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win, personally, I think it's going to be very methodical, leaning on some running backs. And the line that I saw that popped out to me was Isiah Pacheco over 3.5 receiving yards. Now, LineStar on the app, our projection is 4.2. But when you think about Pacheco and the season he's had, listen, I know he hasn't been a huge star this year. He's maybe had a little bit of a disappointing season, but you also have to consider that he had a huge injury. So the first 2 weeks of the season, he had over 20 receiving yards the first two games before he suffered a fractured fibula. Kind of hasn't been the same since, but he did still end up averaging over the course of the season 11 receiving yards per game. And he has come up big for the Kansas City Chiefs in big games, specifically last year in the Super Bowl. Pacheco caught 6 of 6 targets for 33 receiving yards versus a very good San Francisco 49ers defense. He's also been targeted in both playoff games this year. Last week, he had 2 receptions for 12 receiving yards. And when I'm looking at this game, what do we know about Andy Reid? He's the screen game king, loves getting his running backs involved in the passing game, and I think he might like to do that, especially against this Philly defense that's going to be great against that rush game. The Chiefs also love to dial up a screen game or a screen play versus man coverage, and the Eagles have been employing a lot of man coverage this year. I think Pacheco's a great check down option for Mahomes, and I think this line is just low. We basically need him to get 1 reception, something he's done in 7 of 9 games. So I know he hasn't seen the volume that Kareem Hunt has now taken over that starting job, but I still like Pacheco as someone who Mahomes knows is a reliable pass catcher to get over 3.5 receiving yards. All right, next up, let's go to the Philly side of things. You got to think that if you are Steve Spagnuolo in this one, scheming up how you're going to stop this Eagles offense, it's got to stop with Saquon Barkley. You're going to put as many resources as possible to stop the engine that is the quad father. So what does that do elsewhere in the offense? Maybe it opens things up for a guy like A.J. Brown to go over 68.5 receiving yards. LineStar's projection is 76.1. We just saw him put up 96 versus a Washington Commanders defense who he just torched their D, and including Marshawn Lattimore back there. He averaged 83 receiving yards per game during the regular season. So we're still getting a line here at 68.5. That's lower than his season average. And when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they actually ranked 26th in pass defense DVOA versus opposing teams' wide receiver ones. I think the aim for the Kansas City defense is going to be just stop the run and challenge Jalen Hurts to beat him with his arm. Now, it is something that he can do. Brown had 96 against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57. Actually, Devontae Smith was the lead receiver with 100 in that game. But now they've got, Saquon Barkley to contend with as well. And like I mentioned, they're going to have to allocate much more resources to stopping the run. This is a guy, Saquon Barkley, who had 7 touchdowns of 60 plus yards this season. So they're going to have to limit him and his explosiveness, but that opens things up for Brown. Also, Chiefs play man coverage at a pretty high rate, and Brown is one of the best at getting open versus man coverage. Also, I thought it was funny that Hurts quipped after that NFC Championship game win that Sirianni finally let him out of his straitjacket a little bit, because we hadn't seen the passing game, early in the playoffs, but I guess he got let out of his straitjacket. They allowed him to air it out a little bit, and a beneficiary of that was A.J. Brown, one of his top receivers. And listen, he'll have to trust his quarterback in this Super Bowl against a good Chiefs defense, but lean in on those top players, those top receivers. This is the game where you just put the ball in your playmakers' hands and let them work. So we got to let A.J. Brown cook a little bit in this matchup. Lastly, I also like this Dallas Goedert play over 48.5 receiving yards. What's turning me off, though, a bit is how frequently this has been bet. And I saw the line go up to 54.5, which I don't love. This is actually the most bet player prop. I think it actually might be his receptions. But either way, I'm kind of with the public on this. I have to admit it, because Goedert averaging just under 50 receiving yards per game this year. He had 55 receiving yards, or he's averaging 55 receiving yards per game in the playoffs, and has been over in 5 of 8 playoff games since 2021. This is a guy you go to that you can lean on reliably in those big moments in the playoffs. He's dominated the playoffs this year, 16 receptions for 206 yards. He also has 148 of those yards after the catch, which is insane. He's a beast. 5 receptions of 15 plus receiving yards. He's definitely going to have his moments in this game versus a Kansas City team that, yes, they limited Buffalo to tight ends, but prior to that, Dalton Schultz had 45 for the Texans. And during the regular season, Kansas City allowed 70 receiving yards per game to tight ends, which was the most in the NFL, which is why I'm guessing most people are also on this player prop bet here with the over. The Chiefs are also, this is an interesting point here, Chiefs are top 5 in pressure rate and blitz rate. Why is that important? Well, because when Jalen Hurts is under pressure, he targets Goedert at the second highest rate among his pass catchers, behind just A.J. Brown. So when Brown and Smith are on the field, he likes to go to Brown, Goedert. He's a reliable option here and is going to be relied upon, especially I think in the middle of the field is where the Kansas City Chiefs can be susceptible to some explosive plays. So you might see him working that angle as well. Now, lastly, another one. I mentioned at the top of the show here that I kind of liked the running backs for the Chiefs. Kind of maybe we're looking for some fireworks from Travis Kelce, which he's going to show up in this big game, right? But I think they're really just going to lean in on that run game and their offensive line. Kareem Hunt over 45 rush yards might be the play here. Let me know your guys' thoughts. LineStar's projection is 54.6. He's averaging over 56 rush yards per game, had 64 versus Buffalo in the AFC Championship game last week. And yes, he's going up against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. They're like second in rush defense DVOA. They've been great. But when the Eagles have lost this year 3 times in the regular season to Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Washington, those were games where they allowed over 100 yards on the ground. So I think kind of the approach here on Eagles side of things too, they've allowed the second lowest explosive play rate this year and lowest on passing plays. But Vic Fangio's style is just putting a lid on the offense, forcing them into these long, methodical drives that he's hoping eventually leads to a mistake. But this is Patrick Mahomes we're talking about. So I think the Chiefs are going to need to get that ground game going. And when you're playing on the other side, you've got the Eagles and Saquon Barkley and all those playmakers. You're going to want to try to run the clock out and dominate time of possession as much as you can. And you do that with your running backs. So let's go Kareem Hunt over 45.5 rushing yards. So those are my overall, the ones that stood out to me early on here. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more, but let me know your initial thoughts if you've got any player props that you like. Right now, There's not any unders I really like either. I really tried to come up with I know we've got a crowd that loves to fade the field a little bit, and I couldn't really find anything that great. Xavier Worthy might be a play that you look at, but I just can't go under on a guy that has that much talent and speed. So, and a coach that knows how to utilize them in Andy Reid. So that's what I'm working with right now. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. And again, check out our partner offers. Again, the key is to use the promo code LineStar. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. We'll see you guys next time.